Good evening, everyone. Welcome to London AI Technology Meetup. On behalf of London AI Technology Meetup, I would like to welcome everyone. So we have over 200 registrations for today for this ChatGPT session. So in London AI Technology Meetup, we host a lot of interesting AI related topics. This meetup group 100% focused on AI technology at the moment. So time to time, we are collaborating with universities, startups, companies, and other kind of associations to bring you a lot of interesting topics on AI technologies. So in this session is focused on ChatGPT. So we are starting with the usage of ChatGPT. So it's becoming really popular tool at the moment in the industry. And any industry you can use ChatGPT. Is becoming really widely popular. So we have a couple of parts in this session. So we'll start with introduction into the ChatGPT, and then we look at different use cases that we can use ChatGPT, and then we'll getting into how we can build an application like that. That will be more technical side of things. If you are a data scientist, or if you are a Python programmer, or if you are into IT side, if you are doing some data science related stuff, we'll discuss more technical stuff, how you can build a similar approach in that in terms of natural language programming, and what are the tool sets available in Python to do that. But first, we'll start with the application context as a user, how we can use the best performance as a developer, as a marketer, as a sales professional, because it's applied for a lot of industries. It's cross industries. You can use ChatGPT to find relevant information to make your day-to-day work much faster. You could be working in a company, or you could be a student. So day-to-day work can be faster using ChatGPT. So we are starting with usage of ChatGPT. I think by now everyone using the tool. So we look at use cases. What are the different use cases? How we can use ChatGPT effectively, and then we look at different applications. And second half of the session, we will dive down a deep dive into technical side of things, where you'll be interested into Python development, data scientist, how we can leverage this kind of technology, and how we can build a similar solutions, and what are the things that we can build based on these technologies. Because for example, you can see ChatGPT only can give answers in terms of text, but you can enhance this with audio, video, or image-based responses. So those will be additional kind of things that we can add into this technology as a technical side. So thank you all for joining for this today's session. We have over 200 registration. Kindly mute your mic as well to avoid background noise. If you have any questions, you can post in the chat comment box, or you can unmute and ask yourself as well. Otherwise, kindly mute your mic to avoid background noise. Thank you all for joining. So we have now close to 70 participants, and we will be recording the session. So we'll be getting a recording of the session as well. So on behalf of London AI Technology Meetup, I would like to welcome everyone to this session, Unleash the Power of ChatGPT. So time to time, we bring in a lot of interesting sessions to discuss about the technology. Okay, so let's get started. So ChatGPT is at the moment is really powerful platform to get your answers much more effectively, because you know, a lot of job scope require researching capability. Before ChatGPT, we had the tool Google, where we have to search for websites and find the content, and it takes hours to days to write a project proposal or write some kind of a report. It takes a lot of time. But here you can get the summarized view of that documentation, or summarized view of that description. So that makes our life much easier because we are using this AI tool to help with this researching capability. So ChatGPT at the moment use text-based conversation. So we can ask the ChatGPT to certain question to find certain information for certain calculation. If you are in the technical side, to ask around certain errors in a programming, so fix certain bugs or write a certain code using any programming languages we can use. So first half of the session, we are going to look at use cases, how you can use the ChatGPT for your day-to-day work much more effectively. And the second half of the session, we are looking at how this technology can be used to build a similar technology. What are the, how this kind of technology was built around, and what kind of techniques as a developers, as a IT professionals that we can use to build a similar kind of solutions, the technical side of things. But first, we look at the tool side of things. I think by now, everyone is using ChatGPT, and you can see there's some delay sometimes in terms of getting the response because of the massive usage spike that we have at the moment. But another good thing with the ChatGPT is that you will get to see more tools coming up. Now we have tools for image generation, conversation, like that, right? So yeah, we will be recording the session, and you'll be getting the recording of the session via our YouTube channel, and we'll be sharing that in the Meetup page as well. Okay, so ChatGPT started last year, and with that, there's a huge momentum in the industry of usage of the ChatGPT. Because of that, it gave a lot of use cases for users. Because of that, they have improved the version. The recent version was the ChatGPT 4, that giving much more precise answers. Now they have a paid version as well. You can get the paid version to limit the response time, and get much faster results with the paid version. But still, we have free version. We can use the free version, and we can get a lot of benefits from the free version as well. So ChatGPT, we can ask questions in a natural language, because it uses the natural language technology we call as NLP. It uses the natural language technology to create this. So I just a couple of minutes ago asked ChatGPT write a song about London. You can see it can narrate songs, right? So you can see based on the keyword I enter, it's created the song for me, right? So it's just created on the Go song with verses, all the verses, right? Then we can regenerate, and we can create another song. This will be the song number 2. So like that, you can see how effective ChatGPT we can use for, this is the one use case where song creation, like lyricists, if you want to generate certain lyrics, certain documentation, certain writing, you can create a unique way of doing that, right? And here it will ask for a better verse, that is just the feedback system. If you give better or worse, it uses a ranking system to improve its algorithm. That's one of the best way to improve this algorithm. It's a better response. It will capture that, and it will improve the algorithm. So when you're asking a question from ChatGPT, still there are certain limitations of the product. But in terms of researching, in terms of finding relevant information, you can get a much more accurate result compared to previous versions. And a lot of other companies now are trying to compete with the ChatGPT as well. Companies like Google, IBM are trying to compete with the similar products. But this is from OpenAI, a company which is now becoming an industry standard in terms of researching and in terms of getting the information accurately. So it can do calculation, it can write code, it can narrate. In here you can see I just write a song about London. It can write songs, right? So likewise, there are a lot of use cases that we can use. So based on your job role, based on your scope, you might use as a different, because like we have a certain job role that we are working on, could be marketer, sales professional, or writing some project manager or developer, like that. So based on that, we can use effectively this tool. So that is the main idea, to save our time and use the tool much more effectively. And because of that, in coming months, you can see another similar products in the market. But in terms of researching and getting the information, ChatGPT will be the market leader for coming years. But for other scenarios, other use cases, there will be other tools will be popping up in coming months. But at the moment, we are discussing about this tool, which is to get your information accurately. Because right now we are using the ChatGPT 4, very latest version, that is have more data points, more accurate results that we can get in this tool, right? So let me go back. So here in this example, you can see I can give a certain question like this. And this is a technical question, programming question. I think most of you are IT professionals that join to the today's meetup. Some are directly into the AI side, but first half of the session, I will give in more generalized context. And then second half, I will dig down into more technical side of things. So here you can see, you can ask the question. Here, I want to act as a Linux terminal. I want to type a command, reply with the Linux terminal should show. So likewise, you can ask a question, and there are now a certain kind of parameters and certain kind of techniques are associated. In the next few minutes, I will show these different techniques to use ChatGPT much more effectively. Because at the moment, if you enter anything, you will get the result. But what we need is get the result effectively, that the result you want. For that, there are certain tips and tricks. There are, of course, many of them. In this session, we'll discuss a couple of these tips and tricks that can be useful for your job scope. So in this one, you can see ChatGPT as a Linux terminal. You can ask Linux terminal or Linux administration related commands, and you can ask a specific command set. Traditionally, without ChatGPT, we have to search Google. We have to find this command, and we cannot explain a scenario and get the answer because Google is not created for that. In Google, we can only search for keyword. But here, we can explain a scenario. I want this for this scenario. Then based on that scenario, you will get the expected command, right? Still, some commands are not 100% accurate, but over 90%, 80% accuracy is there in the command. Do double check on the results, but most of the time you will get over 80%, 90%, you will get the accurate command. So another advantage, first use case scenario is you can explain a scenario or you can explain a problem and you can get the result, maybe a command or maybe a source code for that problem. In Google, we cannot do that. We cannot explain a problem and get the solution. We can only put the keywords and get that. And keywords are limited because that problem we cannot justify, right? But here we can give explain. But later they are going to, like, we can see other tools that can support audio input. So we can talk, we can, because audio input is much easier where we can talk, we can explain, and then it will be write the text and we'll get that response. So you can use natural language. At the moment it's text, but will be there like audio feature where we can talk and get the explain the thing, explain our issue, then we'll get the result, maybe again as audio or as a text as well. So at the moment, option is you need to type in your problem or the scenario. In this case, you need to type in your scenario and then you will get the response based on that. That is a one use case. Then you can use for technology like IT side for debugging code. If you have any issue in the code, source code, programming code, you can use for debugging code. You can see in this example, find a bug in the following piece of code. So that kind of things not possible in Google, where it doesn't provide, it doesn't analyze the existing thing and doesn't provide the answer. But ChatGPT is analyzing the existing thing and is provide the answer based on that analysis, right? So Google doesn't provide that, and any other AI tool doesn't provide that. So that is another unique part that we can see in ChatGPT, where it's analyze the problem, right? So in this case, it's analyze the source code, right? This is a while loop. It's analyze the problem, and then it's giving a description with the correct, in this case, correct answer as well. This change will fix the bug, right? So like that, you can see it's providing more unique kind of a way to interact and get the result. So when you are using ChatGPT, also make sure to use this way, right? Not like using a Google search, but use more interactive way to get your problem. It's like asking someone, let's say you are having an error in your code. I'm talking about the programming side. Then you're asking your friend how to fix this. So likewise, here you can see, find the bug in the following piece of code, where you can enter the code and it's going to analyze the code and fix a bug, right? That doesn't mean that it's going to answer almost all the source code in the world, but most of the time, just small piece of code you can enter, and then you will get the result accurately. That's a one way. So the ChatGPT is analyzing your problem, the problem statement and the source code. So source code, you can see it's in a different language. Could be C#, Java, or like that. So it will analyzing the problem, and then based on the analysis, it's going to provide the solution. So that is another clear differentiation from any other tool, because mainly we have Google to compare. So compared to that, we don't get anything like this, where you can solve the problem much more easily with that. It can also write the code as well. So you can give a scenario and it can write the source code. Of course, it cannot still write the entire solution like hundreds of code pages, like millions of lines, but small code files, small scenarios can be implemented using this. That is another advantage. Again, going into the programming side, it can write certain functionalities, certain problems. It can implement to the source code. So you can mention programming language, either Java, C#, SQL, Python, and it can implement the code, right? You can ask to implement, then it can implement the code. This is example. So here in this example, you can see asking ChatGPT to create a tic-tac-toe game, write the code. So in the slide, you can see create a Python code to tic-tac-toe. It's a common popular game in Python. So you can see write the complete Python program, right? Write the complete Python program to play tic-tac-toe game called t.py. Then it's going to generate that complete code. And good thing in the ChatGPT is we can create the game code, and even we can play the game with the ChatGPT as well, right? So the code is generated by ChatGPT, and we can ask to run the code, and we can play the game also that written by ChatGPT, and we can play with ChatGPT as well. In the next slide, you can see how it's going to work. So likewise, you can see like a interaction. That's why this tool getting really popular. The type of interactivity that we can get in this tool is really massive compared to a simple chatbot, because using certain NLP technology, we can create a conversational chatbot, but this is going way above because it uses generative AI technology, term in the reinforcement learning to do that. So that's why in this slide, you can see we are asking to create the tic-tac-toe game used in Python, and it's creating that code file. And next slide, we are playing the game with ChatGPT as well. So likewise, you can see how the code is written by ChatGPT, and it can be played again with the ChatGPT as well. So likewise, or dynamic kind of scenarios can be mapped into ChatGPT. Maybe even when they are releasing this, they also not aware about that, because what they have is a large language model, right? It's like a trillions of data points. They have large language model. So all the possibilities, maybe they also, the creators also unaware, but they have put a lot of regulations and rules in terms of AI ethics and guidelines. So you cannot train this to make it negative or negative kind of responses. They have put certain filters. So because of that, it's only positive kind of results, and you cannot see emotions or anything that is coming out of, like when getting the response, you don't see any emotional elements will be added into the text. It's only conversational and answers, right? It's only the language aspect. So they have removed some of these kind of areas, and they have also put certain filters against negative and harmful kind of textual words also. That is another reason that this tool is getting more safer and also more advanced as well, because Microsoft also tried a couple of years ago a similar tool like that, but when they release, a lot of people try to spam it and make it more negative, and because of that, it's learned about these negative areas, and because of that, Microsoft have to shut down the tool. But at the moment, even though people try to do the same thing, but it doesn't go into that. Why? Because they have put filters to avoid that. So because of that, it only gives certain responses. It doesn't give the conversation, right? Hi, how are you, like that. So it doesn't continue with the conversation. So they have put those certain filters on that to avoid these things, right? Like that. Okay. So you can see here the Python code can be generated through the ChatGPT. So at the moment, of course, we can create sample code files. It's not the entire solution. Still, we need programmers, developers But the issue here is number of developers can be reduced. Why? Because we can use the ChatGPT to leverage. We can use the ChatGPT to leverage some of these features. So that's why a number of jobs can be impacted, because number of people, let's say for a task we need 2 people. Now we need only one person, right? So like that. So it can be reduced. Let's say we need 3 developers. Now it can be done with 1 developer, because we have a tool that can generate certain code that can fix certain problems. But of course, it cannot do end-to-end at the moment. It's not general AI. It's only asking the certain problems, and specifically for natural language. We still didn't achieve general AI. General AI is a term that can be solved. We can ask to do anything and can solve any problem at the moment. So this is only a certain part within that, like that. Okay. So I will move to next slide. So here you can see, then we can ask to execute the command in the Python program, right? We can ask to execute the command in the Python program. So Python p.py. Then you can see here, we can play with ChatGPT. So we can play that with the ChatGPT like this, we can play, right? So that is another advantage. We can play with the ChatGPT. So that is the advantage that we have. So we can create the game from ChatGPT, we can execute, and we can play the game with ChatGPT as well. So likewise, there are a lot of potential power that we have. That's why a lot of jobs can be impacted because of that, where the number of people needed for a certain task can be reduced, where we can use this tool to shorten our work time. Because if you have a problem in terms of coding, we can ask that. If you have to create a certain scenario or business case, if you need to develop that, we can ask the ChatGPT, explain the scenario, and you will get a sample source code. In the Google, you cannot find that. Only you can find someone else code, but here it uses a language model to generate that. And you can see writing source code is not the language, not the English language, it's programming language. This goes with about the natural language, which is English most of the time. But it goes above the natural language and going into programming languages as well, because in this case, it's Python language. So you can see Python is not the English language, it's a programming language. It can create code or create the response in the programming language as well. It supports SQL, MySQL, PHP, like a lot of technologies. Again, not all the technologies, but a lot of technologies, you will get that results from that. Then you can see we can play the game that written by ChatGPT. We can play the game with ChatGPT like this. Then in terms of explaining things, so this is another area that ChatGPT can be useful because this we need in a lot of job roles. If you are a marketer, if you're in sales and marketing, if you're a developer, or if you are in any other job role, right? There are a lot of job scope based on the job scope. Let's say if you are in research and development, so you need to explain certain things, right? You need to get description. In the Google, what we get is a website with some description, right? But it's always limited in that. But there are certain like loopholes within that. For example, you don't get the up-to-date version information because the model is trained up to 2019. It's all mostly the information related or research-based that we can use. So in this example, you can see we can explain or ask about IPv6 header with the proper explanation, right? What is IPv6 and then proper explanation, right? So we can see what's the response. Explain the header format of IPv6. So like this. So this is a more generalized one. So you can argue that we will get the same thing in Google as well. But best thing of ChatGPT comes in the next slide, where we can that like these are technical things, right? So in the Google also you'll get most of the same thing. But what ChatGPT does best is the next slide. Explain like I am 5, right? So that's you cannot do in Google. That is a natural language thing, because I can explain a technical thing or I can explain the same thing in a simplified format. That is the natural language ability. So that is what ChatGPT has, natural language ability. So you can explain the things technically, or you can explain the thing in a simplified format. That is why explain like I am 5. So you can see what are wormholes. Explain like I am 5. So wormhole is like a scientific term, and it's a more advanced topic. but explain like I'm a 5. So you can see that is the capability of the natural language, because I'm explaining you about ChatGPT. I can explain in a more technical way, or I can explain in a simple way. That is the ability of a natural language. Same thing in the AI. We can explain the more technical way, or we can get the explanation in a more simple way. So here you can see the simplified format. So when we are using ChatGPT, if you want to simplify, you can use these kind of keywords. Explain like I am 5. It's like explaining the things for a kid. So you can see these are some of the tricks or tips that we can use to better with the ChatGPT, where we can simplify the things. So in the Google, you don't get that. Maybe one or two explain, but you don't get in generalized. So here, wormhole is example, but it can apply for almost all the things that we do. Any certain topic that you want to research on, you can simplify that using this. Explain like I'm 5. So then it is going to simplify like that. So you can read this and see it's going to simplify in a much more greater way, because that is a capability of a natural language. That is a capability in a natural language. You can explain things like, you know, when you are teaching kids, you explain certain terms. Then you are teaching undergraduates, you are explaining in different way. So that's the same approach ChatGPT use, AI tools use in the certain technology skill. So explain like I'm a 5 will explain the things in a much more simplified way, right? Much more simplified way. That is one of the keywords that we can use. It's not only limited to 5, you can use 10 or teenage or other kind of keywords as well. And explain in a particular style as well. That is again another feature, right? We know in a language, in the real world languages, we have certain dialects, right? Certain accents. We have major languages in the world. So the language have certain dialects into different regions in the world. So similarly, we can do that. We can explain the things in a particular style. So you can see style here, cowboy from all Western. The result are really. So you will explain the HTTPS style is cowboy from all Western, like Texas kind of style from US. So likewise, you can explain the things in that. So you can see like that. So it will be explaining like that particular style. Then you can get certain ideas. So here you can see get ideas from AI art, decoration, party themes, like that. So you can see you can ask for a birthday party for 29-year-olds. What are the certain ideas that we can throw away, throw for a birthday party? Give me a party idea for birthday party for 29-year-old, right? So these kind of things we cannot get specifically for Google. You get a birthday idea for from Google, but you don't get for a specific age because age filtering comes from the language understanding of the certain dialects, certain language models that we use for certain age, because our understanding of the language is different from age to different age groups. So here you can see you can give a certain age here. Then you can see certain suggestions: game night, movie night, right, cocktail party, like that. You can have certain suggestions in there. So this is another kind of a usage of the ChatGPT. So first half of the session, we are discussing usage of ChatGPT. Second half of the session, we are discussing technology side, how this tool is created. If you are going to create a similar tool like this, what kind of technologies you need to know. If you're going into more into AI technologies, what kind of tools you need to know to create a similar technology like this. So that is we are discussing in few minutes. We are going to discuss that, but still we are discussing some of the use cases that is possible with ChatGPT. Then also you can use for answers for a homework assignment question as well. So what are the IPv4 header? Explain in a tabular form. So you'll get the answer like that because here the answer is getting in a unique way. That's going to be a little bit ethical problem with especially universities in terms of assignment submission. Now I think there are some regulation from UK universities also coming up. But in here I'm discussing only the technology aspect of things. Regulation will come follow up from government, universities, and other areas. Here, because the unique thing here is like normally if you copy something from Google, you can easily capture that in the Google, because it's fixed kind of a text that is there. But what ChatGPT does is generate natural language. It's like we are typing, right? I'm talking right now. It's like that. So I am talking the same thing. Let's say after 5 minutes, it could be a different way. So likewise, if you get the same question and if you answer the same question the second time, it's a different way. That is natural language, right? So it will be difficult to capture that you did this or ChatGPT did that. So it's still some ethical sides are coming, especially in terms of assignments and project submissions. But in terms of working in your job role, it will be helpful because it will shorten your time in your professional level. But in the academic side, there are certain ethical side in terms of copying your assignment or doing assignment without you actually doing it and asking ChatGPT to do the assignment. There are certain kind of guidelines there because it will be tough to catch. The reason is it uses natural language. Every time it will get a unique result, much better than even the person. But because of that, it's hard to capture that whether it's used ChatGPT or whether they have written it. That's the kind of issue at the moment. But there will be some regulation in terms of academic side of things, in terms of assignment submission. But for professional side of things, we can use for project reports, marketing reports like that, because we need that to do this in a much more shorter time as our job role, right? Let's say to do a certain project proposal, normally it took 1 week. Using ChatGPT, we can narrow down to 2 days, like that. So that is not the ethical problem. That is faster, like efficiency in your job using ChatGPT. That is perfectly okay. But in academic side, you have to learn the things and you have to actually do the things. So using ChatGPT, you are not doing that. You are avoiding all of these. So you can only use ChatGPT for learning the things, not actually to do the assignment. There's a certain ethical boundary within that. In UK universities, I saw recently, there are certain guidelines using ChatGPT as well. There will be some within that. And we can use ChatGPT to write music. Again, the advantage here is copyright issue. You don't get that much issue. Why? Because it uses a natural language. But again, you need to use a certain tool to match and see whether that exact wording there, but copyright is not matching with the word-to-word matching. It's just a pattern of music, certain pattern. It's not going to have exact words. Like for example, the song I just generated, you can see I just generated 2 songs. So there wasn't any song like this.
Whoa. What is that you got?
Yeah, so this is a write a song about London. So
Yo, sweetie, man, sweetie.
Right, so we can use for songwriting. So we can generate a certain song, right, certain set of poem or certain writing within the ChatGPT. So you can ask write a song about London, then you will get that, right? So then again, you need to check for copyrights and things like that. But it uses natural language processing. So you can see I can regenerate. You can see it's completely a new kind of a song that is generated using the same keywords. You can see London keyword is there, Thames there, right? Tower Bridge is there, right? Like that. The keywords are there, but the way the lyrics are performing, but the way the sentence are matching is different. So because of that, you get a unique kind of a result. Every time you generate, you will get a unique result. But if you are actually building a song out of this and publishing it, just double check with the copyright kind of things as well. There are certain tools that we can use to do that. But still, there's no guidelines whether to use a ChatGPT and do that. We can perfectly do that because we can use AI for music generation. There are certain AI tools that we can use to generate music as well. This is generating only text lyrics, but we can use some AI tools to generate music, and you'll get your entire song out of AI as well. And there are some now AI tools generate a video as well. So you'll get your music video done through AI. There are certain projects that do some small movies using AI as well, but still in a really early stage where it's not adapted to mass market. because there's a lot of computation time at the moment. But here you can see we can use for song writing, poem writing, like that to generate music. So here is another example where I can generate and also create code as well, where we can use for playing the music as well. So that's why there are a lot of use cases that we can use. At the same time, it's impacting people who are actually doing that. Let's say a songwriter, their job going to impact, not on like yes tomorrow, but eventually. That's the thing. These are happening slowly. So it's not like tomorrow they are going to see the impact, but eventually they are going to see the impact. Let's say, and it's going to impact step by step. It's like we need 2 songwriters, then we need only 1. So likewise, it's eventually going to impact if the AI is better than the human writing the song, like that. So likewise, you can see this impacting certain areas, and at the same time, it's creating new avenues that we never seen, because we didn't see this earlier. If you look at Google and look at a song, it's just fixed and we cannot just use it. It's just for looking at that, and we can just use it our own. But here you will get a unique solution, unique song. In this case, you will get that unique poem, right? So every time your solution will be, your result will be in a way unique, because it uses the natural language, right? Because we can explain about the same thing in a unique way using natural language. Every time we speak about this or write about that, it will be different, but it will be the same thing. So that's why natural language model is really powerful, and ChatGPT use this like this, right? So that's why there are a lot of use cases that we can use, right? And we can use for translation of the language as well. And in terms of translation, we know we have Google Translate as well. We can use, but GPT also does this translation. Here you can see, how do you say where is the bus stop in Spanish? So it gives an example, description, and also the wording as well. So that is, again, you can include natural language capability with the translation. In Google Translate, we just put the word and select the drop down the language, Spanish, and then get the result. But here you can see it goes one step above, where it give a little bit more clarification, explanation, and the result as well. How do you say where is the bus stop in Spanish, right there? So eventually this is going to add audio as well. Then you will get those pronunciations and wording from that as well, right? So likewise, you can see how we can effectively use ChatGPT, because here we can ask in a natural language, right? We used to type keywords in Google, right? Most of the time, we used to type keywords to find the result. But here, we don't need to do that. We can just ask in a natural way, like you're asking a friend about things that you don't know, like you're asking a friend. We can do that in ChatGPT. You can ask a certain question, a certain problem, much more effective way. Extract data from a text. So we can use to extract certain data. So you can give certain data points like this, and this is a technical kind of one where you can extract simple JSON object from this description. So you can see not stopping from natural like English language, it also goes into the programming languages as well. So JSON is a one technology web service language. It uses that supports that as well. So likewise, you can see there are many scenarios. I just explained around close to 10 different scenarios that we can use this ChatGPT technology and we can leverage. So that's why it is getting huge momentum, because every time you get the result unique to you. So let's say you enter the same thing in your ChatGPT interface, and I enter the same thing in my ChatGPT interface. We both get 2 different results, but both results are correct and it's unique result. That is one of the main feature within the ChatGPT. But if you search Google, everyone is getting the same result, and it's a fixed result. And they use sort of SEO kind of things to do that, to filter and get a website. What we get is a website, and then we need to click through ads and go to the page and do a lot of research. A lot of ads are really confusing with our research. We need to close the ads and things like that. But here we will get a result as a response, as a description. So that is one of the main unique way That's why some of people are telling it can replace or it can limit the people who are going to Google website because of the main usage or main supports features that ChatGPT provides. We can use grading as well. Of course, then it comes for a kind of a ethical side for lecturers at universities where it can grade maybe teachers as well, where you can provide the essay and it can grade, give the grade. So you don't need to grade, do that, right? So there could be some ethical things come around from academic side this time for not students, but for academic staff, maybe lecturers or teachers in terms of grading. But you can compare the answer. So that is a really good thing. But if you give your entire exam paper, student's exam paper and input into the ChatGPT and got the grades from there, there's a little bit ethical issue is there in terms of not you are looking at the papers and ChatGPT is doing that. But you can compare with that. You can have your grades and ChatGPT can have its grades and you can compare and then you can revisit your answers. That is a good way to do that. But if you use because every tool we can use for a good and bad way. So if you use for your all student exams question, put into ChatGPT, of course you get the answer, but there's ethical side of that using that as well. Solve math question. This is really good feature within ChatGPT. A lot of math question, not a simple math question, even complex calculus, advanced mathematics, a lot of advanced calculations, pure mathematics, those kind of calculations, we can do that. Then we can ask a certain question and we can get the answer. So here are simple mathematics where we can give this kind of a question and you can get, then show your work. This is another kind of a good way, see? Because in certain math tools, we have some tools in Google, we can find the answer. What you are getting is not only the answer, how we solve the problem, see, step by step, right? So you can see that's another unique feature within ChatGPT. So in terms of mathematical question, you not only get the answer, if you type show your work, you will get how it's going to solve step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, because to solve a mathematical problem, you need to go through certain number of steps, right? So every time maybe you will get a unique way of solving the math equation as well, because you know there could be multiple ways to solve the same math problem and you need to get the same result. So that is another way. That's why it's getting a challenge for assignment submissions, things like that, because it can provide a much more unique solution. So the ethical side of things. But here you can see in terms of if you want to solve a complex calculation, let's say you are in the research side, you are doing some mathematical calculation, you want to fast solve this advanced mathematics calculus function, right? So we can use this tool in a much more effective way, where your time can be the time taken for you to use this will be reduced because of that. So that is one of the advantage that we can see ChatGPT can use. It can solve this math problem, not only simple math problem, but more complex math problems as well. It can solve this much more effective way. So you can see how we can leverage that. So I explained a lot of different scopes in terms of jobs. It could be a lot of different scopes that we can use, right? So we can use this much more effective way, and you can see in terms of math equation, right? So it's not finished yet. Now I'm going to go into the technology side of things. So what behind this technology is language understanding and the language model, which is we call as natural language programming, NLP, and prompt engineering. So these are some of the technologies and concepts that use this particular technology. This is created by OpenAI with a small team of 30 people. And the good thing here is it's not the whole 30 people who created, maybe like 5 to 6 people, or let's say on average like 10 people, because OpenAI doing a lot of innovative research on AI. Like you can see Elon Musk rockets, they use this OpenAI technology like OpenAI Gym, and they use for a lot of advanced reinforcement learning. So prompt engineering is a language side of things, natural language. You can still see there are certain tools we can use for language understanding, Google and Alexa from Amazon having these tools, but still they are not managed to get a successful response like this, because in that we need to give the command, because what the issue was there was they were looking at the command perspective. So if you go to Alexa and Google Assistant, you need to give as commands like you do in a Google search. But what ChatGPT does is they manage to look at the problem in a natural language way, right? Because in Alexa and those tools, they use as a command way. That is more like searching from Google. But you can see all the problem, all the use cases I have shown. It uses a natural language way. Like we are talking to a friend, like you are asking a question from me, like a natural language way. When you are asking a question, you are not asking me like keywords, right? ChatGPT, how, what, like that. You are not asking as a keyword. You're asking me as a question, like a natural language way. So that is why these tools are like getting much more popular than the existing tools. Like we have some voice-based tools than that. So prompt engineering is one technology behind the scenes that used. I'm now talking about the technology side of things. The second half of this session is more technical side of things. There's a question regarding the access issue. Of course, there's a certain access limitation is there in terms of browser. So I'm using Google Chrome at the moment. It supports all the browsers, but the issue is the access limit. Once you log in, you get the access, but I recommend not to close the session. That's the one way to make the access. Other is the paid solution, because ultimately they want to make money as well. So that's why you have around $20 average monthly paid subscription. But now there will be other competition will comes in. Google release the solution, but it's not good as ChatGPT. So, but there'll be other solutions will come in to compete with the AI tools. So that is one advantage. In terms of access, I would try to say like maybe use the VPN, and also not to use in a peak time, right? Time zones you can look at, maybe US times are peak time, US daytime will be much more peak time. Maybe Asian daytime will be a peak time. So just avoid some peak times. There'll be more usage in that time zones. Without that, other time zones you can look at. In the European time zones, it's fine. But if you try to use, if you avoid any of these major time zones like Asian daytime and US daytime time zones, you must use much more effectively. But time to time, there are some other kind of requirements, blocking access, like limitation with number of access. That's why they introduced the paid version, because not a problem with AI, it's a problem with bandwidth. They could easily do that, but to make the users go into the paid one. That's why, because Facebook do that. You have billions of users accessing without any slowdown. So you can easily do that. Issue is the users to push into a subscription. That's why they are doing little bit that bandwidth issue to make the users go into the paid subscription, right? Because ultimately they want to also make money as well. So prompt engineering discuss about how you ask a question and how the response. Now I'm discussing technology side of things. So prompt engineering, if you want to build this kind of a similar solution, so if you are building, you need to build something different, because if you try to build one equal to ChatGPT, even Google cannot beat that at the moment. So don't do that, but do something different, little bit different, maybe generating audio, generating images, or different custom use cases like that. Of course, there are many things are possible, but not good to create the same thing that already there. Google tried to do that and they are not succeeding at the moment. So that's why. But there's a technology behind that. I'm explaining about that. It's a technology not there, like it was there 5 to 10 years ago. But what ChatGPT does is they push the boundaries of the limitation in terms of training the model, and they try to make it much more effectively. But this technology was there 5 years ago. We could easily do that, but they push the technology much more faster than the large companies, tech companies like Microsoft and Google. They do that with a couple of team members with a lot of computation power. They do that. But 5 years ago also, we had the same technology stack where we can have a similar kind of a solution. But what they did that is they had the data set from users as well. because when you ask a question, the model improves. It uses the reinforcement learning. So when you ask a question, model improves that. So the next time you ask the question, it's going to give a better answer than previous one. So that is another advantage that we have in reinforcement learning. So in the prompt engineering, we can have these certain prompts, language prompts, so different way of asking a question from a user, right? So it uses this technique to ask the question and get the solution from standard prompts, right? Then another technology it uses is a text summarization. So this is also a concept within the natural language programming. So in the natural language programming, we can summarize a certain text. Let's say we can use, there's a certain functionality in Python that using that we can summarize. Let's say we have 1000-page document. Using text summarization, we can summarize that into 5 paragraphs or 1 paragraph, right? So we have 1000-page document. Using text summarization, we can summarize that to 1 paragraph. So if you try to do that in a real world, it will take at least like few weeks to month, right? If you are a really good reader, I would say maybe like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, right? If you want to summarize the entire book, 1000-page book, into a 1 paragraph, it takes at least a couple of weeks if you do non-stop reading. But within a couple of seconds or millisecond, you can do that in Python. So you can enter the entire content of the text in the book, 1000-page, into the Python framework, and then using text summarization technique, you can summarize that to whatever description you want. So ChatGPT used that feature to give you the answer in a much more summarized manner. So sometimes your problem span around a lot of pages, so like thousands or 2000 words, but you can see all the time ChatGPT answer is summarized, right? Most of the time your answer is summarized into a couple of paragraphs. It's not going to show you thousands of pages, but sometimes your problem lies within thousands of pages or a lot of information, right? So it used text summarization technique to summarize the problem and getting that into a much more smaller result. So in Python, we have this functionality where we can summarize the problem like this. So that technique is called text summarization. Then information extraction. So this is another NLP technology that ChatGPT works used, right? So we need to extract a certain technology because in the previous slide, you have seen we asked a question, what is IPv6? So there's a certain information related to that. So it need to extract from somewhere, maybe Wikipedia, or maybe some book, or maybe some article, right? It need to extract that information. So that is called information extraction. So what this model does is get that information, it will process that information and provide you with the natural language way, right? It's like we're asking a person and that person is explaining us the solution, right? So it have answer to most of these problems because it used the AI model with all these capabilities. So information extraction is extracting certain piece of information using natural language processing. So ChatGPT have this feature as well, right? Where we can do the information extraction, right? So it can extract that information and it can provide that information. Then another feature that ChatGPT does is question answer. So this is called Q&A. It's also a natural language feature, Q&A. In standard chatbots, you can see that in the website, you can see in chatbots, this Q&A feature, you can ask question from the chatbot and you will get the response from the chatbot as well. So in the standard Q&A, you can get this chatbot capability. So that is also a feature in ChatGPT. We can ask the question from ChatGPT and you will get as answer for that question. So Q&A is also an NLP capability that we can use to get the solution. Question and answer capability. So you can ask a question as a question and you'll get the result as an answer. Then test classification. So test classification is classifying the result, whether it's a correct result. We have in this NLP called a technique called sentimental analysis, where we can analyze the sentiment behind the text, whether it's a positive one, whether it's a negative one. So you can see most of the time, the text you get in your ChatGPT is a positive one. So you don't get crazy words or like those kind of bad words. You don't get that in ChatGPT. Why? It uses sentiment analysis. Maybe in the answer it might have that, but it's try to avoid that because it uses sentiment analysis and text classification to fix those problems as well. So these are some of the things these are already there in Python and natural language processing. what ChatGPT does is connect all these things together and build the large language model using generative AI and reinforcement learning. And then you'll have this large model that keep improving every time you use it. And initial release also, there were millions of users using that initial version back in last year. That helps the initial improvement of the model. So most of the model nowadays have the problem is improving that model because there's not enough users join into that. But what ChatGPT had at the early stage is large number of users, millions of users asking questions and improving the model. Now we have really improved model. So the latest ChatGPT 4 is a much more improved version that even cannot beat at the moment with the Google AI chat with Google Bart technology as well. I'm custom model train the knowledge. Yeah, using knowledge base, we can do that. So this chatbot chat technology was there like a couple of years ago. There are a lot of techniques. One is conversational AI, then knowledge based AI. We can ask certain questions. So let's say you are insurance company, you are creating a chatbot that's going to ask a question from insurance. So maybe healthcare insurance, medical insurance, then you can point to agent after discussing, have this conversation. So in that, we can have this knowledge base that can be summarized into certain area, maybe insurance, maybe telecommunication, like that. So where it's more like the agent, conversational agent, where it can have a discussion with the customer, and then it can point to a certain person, right? So I'm going to demonstrate some of the work that we have been doing as well. So these are different areas. So ChatGPT also doesn't have all the areas because it uses a more generalized way that targeted to mass market, like a public market. But for enterprise scenarios, there could be different ways that we can customize to insurance sector. We can customize to healthcare sector. There's another AI company doing a chat bot that is later acquired by Microsoft. They are doing a chatbot for healthcare. So where you can ask a question about certain medical problems and give certain suggestions like that. Like that, you can specify for industry specific. So that is where the enterprise solutions comes in, and also there are a lot of plugins also coming in ChatGPT as well. But what ChatGPT does is they targeted to the mass market, like general public. So everyone can use it for a lot of different industry scopes. But at the moment, before ChatGPT, what we can see is industry specific chat application. So we have certain chat application for healthcare, then certain chat application for insurance, like that, but not a public one that anyone can use it like this. Right. So test classification is one area that we can use. Right. So now I will show the framework. So this is one framework that we can use. This is called NLTK, Python NLTK framework. That is a natural language framework. So using this framework, we can build a language models. So we can, I'm not saying like we can exactly build ChatGPT on day one, but we can start with something small like extracting keywords, summarizations, like that, because these are concepts within Python and AI NLP technology. In terms of frameworks, we can use NLTK, which is called Natural Language Toolkit. So the second half of the session, I'm explaining more technical side of things. So here you can use for tokenization, stemming, tagging, sentiment analysis, text classification, and also for checking grammars, like that, language models, keyword analysis, things like that. Because language is quite a huge thing, right? If you look at natural language processing is how in a real world language can be used to process, identify, understand, because ChatGPT still doesn't get the meaning of that particular question, right? It does understand to the language model and provide that, but there's a certain meaning, right? So it doesn't have like a sentiment, like feelings and things like that, but it just getting the certain conversational elements, like the extracting to the natural language processing. So as a tool set, we have this tool to get started. So if you are a beginner, like to create this technology, so like to work with these technologies, maybe as a data scientist or a natural language programmer, so we can explore these tools. NLTK is one tool for a data scientist or Python developers can start with. This official website, NLTK, Natural Language Toolset, where we can see just few lines of code. You can analyze certain keywords, You can use for tagging, right? That you can analyze certain classification within the text, whether it's a noun, pronoun, verb, like that. So natural language processing have all these capabilities. So what ChatGPT does is added all these capabilities into one project and release to the public, and also test it really well and do that. But we have these technologies like few years ago, from 5 to 10 years ago, all this open source. You don't need to pay for any of these packages. It's completely free of charge, open source. That's another good thing with the AI technologies. All the tools that we are using at the AI at the moment is completely, you can see, free, open source, community driven, right? Almost all the, like, I would say 99% of the AI tools that we don't need to pay any licensing fee. It's completely open source, easy to use, free to use as well, right? That is one of the main advantage in the AI landscape that we can see compared to other tools, because some of the software tools we have to buy licenses, we have to pay certain subscriptions and things like that. But for AI scope, we don't need to do that. It's most of the time, almost of the time, is free of charge completely, right? Okay, so this is a website. I will share the link. You can take a look at it. Natural Language Toolkit, where we can use this toolkit to do things like tokenization, extract certain tokens. We can see simple tokens. So we have a certain sentence here, right? So we have this certain sentence we can extract. So it's going to extract the keywords. So this is one way that ChatGPT can also understand the problem. So it need to break down the problem. So the tokenize is a way that you will break down the problem and the keywords, and then you remove common words like is, are, the, like common words. It's going to remove, and then it's going to present in a way much more natural language way, right? It's like how you understand a sentence. Like I'm explaining a sentence and you are understanding the sentence in your mind. So like how you break down that, right? In computer world is 1 and 0. So in real world is like neuron working together to get the meaning of the sentence, right? So it's just extracting into that particular idea of the keywords, and then it's try to match that, right, into that certain information or certain kind of knowledge that try to match. Stemming and limitation, so it's one of the area. Then we have speech recognition. This is also another research area in AI. We have text to speech, speech to text. Then we have speech recognition, where we can recognize certain keywords. So this ChatGPT can easily enable with speech. Of course, they need to do that, but they can easily do that, where you can talk and you get the response as a voice. Then you can easily integrate that to mobile app. It's like talking, calling your friend and asking for answer, where you can talk to the ChatGPT and you get the voice-based answer. At the moment, it's typing, but you can easily use the text-to-speech and speech-to-text to get that voice-based answer. But it involves a lot of data transfer. At the moment, they are having a bandwidth problem. So I think that could be another issue, that they are not adding that feature at the moment. So here you can see we can extract certain keywords, certain tags, things like that using natural language programming, where it's one of the core technologies used in ChatGPT to build. So it uses conversational AI, reinforcement learning, and this Python NLTK framework to build the entire solution. Of course, we cannot see the source code because they didn't open source it. It's a closed source solution, but we can build a similar kind of techniques like that. There are a lot of use cases and interesting projects are building following these areas. And these areas was there before ChatGPT as well in the AI world, in the research academic side and the industry side, as I mentioned, for a specific insurance bot or different use case like healthcare bot, like that, chatbots. Then we can use for name recognition, maybe organization. So for example, it use name recognition because I enter here in the ChatGPT London. So it need to understand what is London. So London is a city in UK, in a country. So you need to understand that. So that is called name entity recognition. It need to understand that entity, right? Otherwise, it doesn't provide the contextual information as entity. It's called name entity recognition. So it understands London. as a city in UK, as a city first place, right? Then city in UK. So that's how using name entity recognition, it can understand a landmark. So here within that you have certain things. So you have certain name of people, organizations, location, and dates, right? So any NER algorithm, this algorithm are going to understand a certain locations, certain organizations, right? Otherwise, there's no way to understand that, right? Because these terms are not natural language. So if you talk like, let's say, company name Microsoft, it's not a natural language term, right? If you give a city name, that is not like natural language, it's actual place. So you need to understand this is actual place. So that is where the name entity recognition comes in. So in Python, we can use this particular sub framework to analyze a certain name entity, which is could be a person, organization, location, or certain dates. That is under the name entity. Of course, they might add more information than that, but this is a building block using that feature. So you can see here, we have Barack Obama was born in Hawaii. So here you can see Barack Obama is identified as a person. Hawaii is identified as a location, right? Was born is not identified as a name entity, right? So we input a sentence. So Barack Obama identified as a person. So you can see this understanding is needed. Why? Because in natural language, we don't have that, because these are actual person. Natural language talk about how you make a conversation with the person, right? So these are real world things. That is also timely, because before 2008, maybe this name is not popular, right? So likewise, this is a name entity recognition. So that is also a technique that used in ChatGPT to understand a certain location, a certain place, right? Okay. So chunking also another technique that we can use to extract certain keywords or extract certain expressions from that as well. Regular expressions can be used within the chunking process. Yeah, we can extract certain keywords and certain kind of scenarios. It could be noun, verb, like prepositional, like that, because this use the real world grammar. So English grammar, it used in the natural language processing, and also based on the different versions of language as well. It used that, because natural language processing is using the real world language processing into the programming world, right? And we can also use rule-based processing as well. So likewise, these are different technical areas where how this kind of a tool can be built and what are the building blocks on that. Then the final part of the session, I will show some demos. So this is a chatbot that we have developed earlier. So where we can ask questions like here you can see the simple chatbot where we can ask a certain question from the chatbot, and then it's going to answer, right? So here you can see some of the questions we have asked, and then these are the answers that we have received from that. And this is another one. This is more like the one like the ChatGPT similar answer. So let's say I want to write a marketing proposal, marketing proposal. Then I can use the generate. Then it's going to generate. So this is running local. You can see it's not a public website. I'm running a local Python project in the local host. It's not a public solution. So where we can generate certain text. So you can see it's giving certain ideas about marketing proposal, right? Some certain ideas. So here to fix the issue with the multiple, like to get the correct answer, we have a solution where we are generating multiple answers, right? In ChatGPT also they have the similar thing to regenerate. So similarly, we are doing that to regenerate, trying to get the correct solution from 5 answers, right? We can define 5 couple of answers, and then we can get that, right? So this is also a project that we are working at the moment, and this can be added to get images as well, and audios and those kind of advanced interactions that we can have, where at the moment ChatGPT doesn't generate images or audio and video. That can be further useful to generate more image. So we can ask for a certain scenario and it can be generate that images. So now we have another tool, AI tool to do Midjourney AI, where it generates images as well on a certain problem. And in that tool, we can also give the camera also, like a Canon version of the camera. It's going to generate that from image like that. So likewise, these are some projects that we'll be working at the moment. So some research projects that we are working and some POCs where we can generate certain solutions and we can improve upon these solutions like that. And it uses the natural language processing and it uses PyTorch, like Python frameworks, TensorFlow, deep learning toolset we are using to generate this kind of results. And this can be improved to get images, solution to the images, and also solution answers to audio as well, where we can further improve these problems. We can apply certain unique ways, because what ChatGPT does is getting the answers like in a much more textual format. But what we can try is like looking at the different perspectives, like how we can use different multimedia ways of getting the result, maybe as audio, as video problem, right? A simple chatbot, we had like we can do the customizations for like this case, like the insurance industry, like vehicle insurance or healthcare. So we can integrate that to a website like a chatbot. That is what we had earlier. But what ChatGPT does is in a public placing to get that and get the answer. So no, we are not selling the product. I'm just showcasing some examples in local projects that we are running. And you can also develop solutions like this using Python packages and frameworks. So I'm showing what is possible, because ChatGPT we only see it as a output, but here I'm showing you like the example code and the output as well. So this is the Python code for the the chatbot. So you can see it using NLTK framework. You can see word lematizer, speech recognition, where we can use for recognize the audio, right? And we can load the certain model file, and based on that, we can build the conversation, right? We can ask a certain conversation. So this is a certain source code of that, where we can enable voice-based audio recognition as well. So using that, we can ask a certain question, and it can answer the result in the audio language as well, right? So we can do that much more easily. Now we have a lot of tools are there, frameworks are there. So NLTK is one of the main framework, and using NLTK, and then you have to use a Flask framework as well. So using Flask framework and NLTK, we can build, and then you can run a website, and it can be, this is running locally, but then you can host this website and you can do that. So so finally, I'm showing the demonstration, like how you can, if you use the technologies I mentioned, and how it's going to be built to a final output, and how we can create something similar to ChatGPT, not exactly like that, because that takes a lot of effort. But I'm showing the building blocks to get started, a similar product and tools like ChatGPT, how you can create using NLTK product, and how we can use that, right? So these are some research projects that we are doing at our organization. So I'm showing you that how you can create. So NLTK framework is a one tool that we can use to do that, right? So this is a model that we can use. So if you have further questions, of course, you can ask in the chat, and also you can reach out to us as well. And we are planning to create more sessions like this to make you aware about these technologies and use the best way possible of this technology. So you can see what is possible. So it's not only the front end side of things, we can also develop these kind of things much easily. Now we have tool set to create these things as well, right? So if you have this now close to end of the session, if you have any question, you can ask in the chat. Yeah, there's a question, difference between NLTK and PyTorch. It's a good question. NLTK is a natural language toolset that is specifically only for those areas I mentioned, and few other like keyword extraction, name recognition, and like that. But PyTorch is a framework, it's a deep learning framework that you can power this tool, right? So if you're building a more similar solution like ChatGPT, you need to use both together. So PyTorch is the way that you create the model. Then to optimize the model and for use the technique, you have to use NLTK both together, right? So we'll share the some of the slide will be shared. You can write to us in terms of if you want to get the PowerPoint, you can write to us and we'll be sharing the recording of the video in the meetup group. I think everyone join via the meetup group. So this is how you can reach to us. I will put that. So you can write to us if you want to get the PowerPoint slide. But if you have any further question, also you can write to us as well. As thank you all for joining the session. I think it was helpful for you. We started with ChatGPT introduction, usage, use cases, and building application, and how we can leverage the technology to develop a similar AI solution. In coming months, you will be seeing a lot of tools like that. So it's really good to know about this technology and leverage. So as a company, we are supporting this technology, and also we are supporting AI awareness in UK and London with our meetup group. So keep engaged to our meetup channel. We are bringing more sessions like this with a lot of partnerships with other companies and associations. So keep engaged to our channel as well. We'll be sharing a meetup video in the meetup page, and the slides you can request to our email. We will share site. It's only for people who requested. We will be sharing the slide use cases, and you are welcome. Thank you all for joining. We have over 200 registration, and Zoom also we had over close to 80 participants at the peak time, and we'll be sharing the meetup recording. And thank you all for joining the today's session. Have a nice day. Thank you.